A turbulent time, Nixon's tumultuous presidency from 1969 to 1974. Richard Nixon took office in 1969. The nation was deeply divided. The Vietnam War raged on. Protests against the war were growing. Nixon promised to bring peace with honor in Vietnam. He also promised to restore law and order at home. Nixon faced many challenges during his presidency. The Vietnam War continued to escalate. The economy experienced inflation. Social unrest was widespread. Nixon responded to these challenges with a mix of pragmatism and ruthlessness. Nixon expanded the Vietnam War into Cambodia in 1970. He hoped to cut off North Vietnamese supply lines. The move backfired. It led to protests on college campuses across the country. At Kent State University, Ohio, National Guardsmen shot and killed 4 students during an anti-war protest. Nixon also faced growing opposition from within his own party. The Watergate scandal began in 1972. It would eventually lead to his downfall. The scandal involved a break-in at the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel. Nixon tried to cover up the break-in. However, the truth eventually came out. Earth-shaking events and shifting tides. From moon landings to the Pentagon Papers, from 1969 to 1971. Amidst the turmoil, 1969 witnessed a landmark achievement, the Apollo 11 moon landing. Neil Armstrong's first steps on the moon captivated the world, offering a brief respite from earthly conflicts. This triumph underscored American ingenuity and momentarily unified a fractured nation. In 1971, the Pentagon Papers revealed government deception about the Vietnam War. Leaked by Daniel Ellsberg, the papers eroded public trust. Nixon's silent majority speech in 1969 highlighted deep societal divisions. In 1971, Nixon removed the US dollar from the gold standard, fueling economic uncertainty. A New World Order diplomacy and deception from 1972 to 1974. In a surprising turn of events, 1972 saw Nixon embark on a groundbreaking diplomatic mission to China. This historic visit, the first by a U.S. president, aimed to normalize relations with the communist nation. It signaled a thaw in the Cold War. It opened up new possibilities in international relations. Nixon followed this diplomatic overture with a trip to the Soviet Union. He engaged in talks with Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev, culminating in the signing of the SALT I Treaty. This agreement, aimed at limiting strategic arms, marked a significant step towards détente between the two superpowers. However, while Nixon was making strides on the international stage, trouble was brewing at home. The Watergate scandal, which began with a seemingly minor break-in, was steadily unraveling. As investigations deepened, a web of lies and cover-ups pointed directly to the White House, shaking the foundations of American democracy. Section 4. A Nation in Transition. From Watergate's shadow to Ford's pardon, 1974 to 1976. The Watergate scandal reached a boiling point in 1974. Facing impeachment by the House of Representatives, Nixon resigned in disgrace. His departure left the nation reeling, its trust in government shattered. Gerald Ford, Nixon's vice president, assumed the presidency. Ford faced the daunting task of restoring faith in the presidency. In a controversial move, he pardoned Nixon for any crimes he might have committed related to Watergate. Ford argued that the pardon was necessary to heal the nation. However, the decision sparked outrage among many. It raised questions about accountability and the rule of law. Despite the turmoil, the 1970s witnessed the rise of significant social and environmental movements. The National Organization for Women, or NOW, gained momentum in its fight for women's rights. The Environmental Protection Agency, established in 1970, sought to address growing environmental concerns. The United Farm Workers, led by Cesar Chavez, continued its struggle for the rights of farm workers. These movements reflected a growing awareness of social inequalities and environmental issues. They signaled a push for greater justice and equality. Section 5. The Carter Years: Hope, Crisis, and a New Dawn, 1977 to 1981. The 1976 presidential election saw Jimmy Carter, a former governor of Georgia, win the presidency. Carter campaigned on a promise of honesty and integrity. He sought to restore trust in government after the Watergate scandal. Carter's presidency was marked by both successes and challenges. On the domestic front, he created the Department of Energy. He appointed more women and minorities to government positions than any previous president. He championed human rights abroad. However, Carter faced several crises. The Iran hostage crisis began in 1979, when Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took Americans hostage. His efforts to secure their release proved unsuccessful. Despite the challenges, Carter achieved a major foreign policy victory with the Camp David Accords. He brokered a peace treaty between Egypt and Israel. This landmark agreement solidified Carter's legacy as a peacemaker. The 1970s was a decade of profound change for the United States. The nation grappled with political scandals, social unrest, economic uncertainty, and a changing world order. Yet it also witnessed extraordinary achievements, from landing on the moon to making strides in civil rights and environmental protection. As the decade drew to a close, the nation stood at a crossroads, poised for the challenges and triumphs that lay ahead.